The Montreal Screwjob was once again explored as the Netflix Mr. McMahon documentary hits the market, and people are watching and people are talking. One of the big things that was covered on this documentary, of course, was the Montreal Screwjob. Now, we've all seen this covered to death. It has been gone into in depth from every possible angle multiple times. We've all seen it. We all know the details. But there are still questions, and there are conspiracy theorists that still to this very day look at the Montreal Screwjob and go, that's a work. And though that might sound preposterous, a lot of people like to just blanket shit on all conspiracy theories because nobody ever plans to do anything shady behind the scenes ever. It's always the exact story that is told to the public. It's never a lie. So with that in mind, most people would say, that's bullshit. It's not a work. But on the other hand, there are people and prominent people that still think there's a possibility that this whole thing was a work. Namely, Kevin Nash and his host, Sean Oliver, on the Click This podcast, as they speculated this very thing. And Sean Oliver lays out his evidence for why he thinks this, to this day, is still the greatest work in professional wrestling history.
Kevin, I've said this for a long time, and when we were shooting Timeline with Brett, I knew we were covering 1992, so this wasn't going to come up. But I knew during a break when we were having dinner, there was no way in the face of everyone in the room that I work with that I couldn't say this to Brett when I had him face to face. So I did. And I gave my reasons. I said, Brett, you think I'm off the wall. I said, but I think if you listen to the reasons behind this, you'll understand. I said, have you ever seen a bell ring in a title change where the first cut on the camera was to the loser's face in a close-up to catch your reaction to having heard that bell? If anyone in the truck didn't know it was going to happen, they would have cut to the winner, Sean, triumphant. Not you. Why did we need to see the anger and confusion in your face on TV? First. Second, what a perfect way this plays out. You get to go. You don't have the belt. You didn't drop it. You didn't want to drop it. You weren't going to drop it. You got screwed. Wasn't your fault. The character of Mr. McMahon, who screwed Brett, who everyone loved, is born out of this. And just so happens, you got cameras backstage making a documentary. Crazy. I mean, that all lines up, Kev.
Like I said, it's not cut and dry to me.
Yeah. He nodded his head and he went, huh, okay. So that was it. There was no discussion, but I had to say it to his face.
To me, if you've been doing something for that long, you've been working the people that long, why would you possibly give up that work?
What do you mean?
Why would you? Why now? Go. You're right.
Oh no, but to me, you mean?
To anybody?
Yeah. Well, but I mean, he could have argued against it and said, "You're fucking crazy. You've never been a wrestler." Like, well, the fans say, you can't talk about wrestling unless you've been a wrestler.
You know, I gotta tell you, I've never considered the camera shot of Brett's face immediately after the incident. That's something that never really occurred to me, and I don't think I've ever even heard anybody talk about that, to be honest with you. Sean Oliver brings that up here, and it's like, yeah, what about that? Why would they just zoom in on Brett when Sean just won the world's title in the main event of the show? Maybe just to get that agony of defeat shot, but highly doubtable. So was Kevin Dunn in on it? Perhaps. He's Vince McMahon's right-hand man, right? Like, he was one of the closest people to Vince one of the most loyal people to Vince. I can't imagine there's any particular reason that production would need to be clued in on this other than Vince wanted those shots, right? Zoom in and get Brett's reaction when I screw him, when I fuck him real good. The camera's showing the WCW thing that he does, and it shows the spit in Vince's face. They caught all of it. So maybe Vince tipped the production truck off to just, hey, let's keep rolling on this and, get these particular shots. Perhaps. But why would he want those particular shots? Excuse me. Now, the thing that always got me was that there was a camera crew backstage. Now, I know they were filming a documentary. I get that. But they just so happened to be filming a documentary at this show. They just so happened to be following Bret Hart specifically at this show. They just so happened to have the conversations with Bret's wife, confronting Triple H about it and calling him a piece of shit or whatever the fuck she did. Just so happened to catch Vince McMahon stumbling out of the room after he got punched in the face. I mean, you just so happened to catch Bret confronting Shawn. I swear to God, caught him my blah, 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 and I didn't know, man. Yeah, you knew. You knew. Of course you knew. You admitted you knew. That was the worst lie, too. Like, Bret, there's no way Bret bought that. I swear to hand to God, man. Didn't know. Yeah. Okay. That's why he had to run to God after and become all religious, because he did God dirty by using his name in vain and lying to the hitman's face. I don't know. I tend to think it's not a work because wrestling loves to bask in its own glory of pulling off these really sweet angles and stuff. You know, they love to talk about it and do documentaries on it and just, talk the behind the scenes story of how it all came about. I would have to think that at some point, after all of these podcasts, after all of these documentaries and all of that somebody at some point would come out and say, yeah, that was just a master work. A master work. If this is a work, it is a master class in creating a work. Because it's believable. And to this day, we still believe it. To this day, it's still talked about. But it does conveniently take care of everything, does it not? It sends Bret on his way. And look, Vince was the one who let Bret go. He signed him to this massive contract that he couldn't afford to honor. So he showed Bret all the loopholes that allowed him to go and negotiate with WCW. And when Bret made the deal to go to WCW, Vince was well aware of this and allowed Bret to do it the whole time. So we're allowing Bret out of his contract. We're allowing him to go to WCW. Yet we're going to just do this big screw job. Wouldn't it benefit Bret the Hitman Hart to leave the company with a little bit of I don't know what the word you would want to use for it. Not controversy and not momentum, but certainly it's going to give him a little bit of attention going into his WCW. He's got something to bitch about. He can claim being the victim. He can claim being screwed. This is the WWE champion that was screwed out of the championship by that dastardly Mr. McMahon. Who on his end, sorry, I'm fighting a bit of a sniffle. Just bear with me if you hear me kind of struggling to breathe here a little bit. Mr. McMahon was able to use this as a launching pad for the Mr. McMahon character, right? So Vince took it. He benefited from it. Bret took it. He benefited from it. Documentary was there to catch it all. Cameras behind the scenes in everybody's locker room. Caught the whole thing just to drive it home. Why did the camera zoom in on Bret at the end of the match? Why did the documentary cameras follow around Brett? Now, all this could be coincidental, and it probably is. Because, again, if this was a work, I think we would have heard it by now. Somebody would have wanted to say, yeah, it was the greatest work in history. But to this day, they still insist that this is what happened and that sort of thing. And it's not out of the realm of possibility. It's just weird that it was covered so well by cameras. WWE has never had cameras backstage to film any of that shit at that time. Now there's a camera in everybody's face at all times. They're in full documentary mode. They have people just roaming around backstage with cameras. Literally everything you do backstage besides taking a pee or getting changed is on camera. But that was not the case back then. Just so happened that just this one show was their cameras allowed backstage, in the locker rooms, in Vince's face, in Brett's face. I don't know. I don't know. Certainly there's evidence there to say that this was a work, but I still don't tend to believe that. But I'll hear your conspiracies out. I'm not going to be like, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. That's stupid. No, there's evidence there. It's weird. It's a weird situation. A weird situation that they capitalize on still to this day, to this very day. And if you're Bret Hart, who respects the business so much, you're not going to reveal your greatest work of all time. Would that not be a brilliant creative plan to come up with because Vince is already aiding Bret in leaving the company. Why not orchestrate this big fucking schmaz to happen with all these people and the screw job and the bell ringing and the sharpshooter and the spitting in the face? Vince was out there. Vince was never out there. I wanted to be out there so he knew that I did this to him. God damn it. Maybe. I mean, maybe. Has Vince ever done that before? Was he out there when Wendy Richter got screwed out of the title? No. Was he... I mean, I don't know. There's questions to be had. We could sit and chomp on this all day, but I think I'll leave it there and leave it free for people to speculate down in the comments, because this will forever be one of the most fascinating stories in professional wrestling, and there will always be speculation of if it was a work or not. One of the things that adds to that is wrestling in general is a work. So it's not far-fetched to say, oh, this was a work too. Any non-wrestling fan that watches like a documentary on that goes, wrestling's fake. It's scripted entertainment. Why would real things happen in the ring and then them cover it so in depth? But it could go either way, in my opinion. I mean, I'm not, if you came out and there was definitive proof that it was an actual real life work, I wouldn't be shocked to hear that. I just think after all this time, we would have heard something by now other than the speculation. But even when the boys, like Kevin Nash, believe that there's something there to insinuate that this could be a work, I think that lends credibility to it. But who knows? Maybe we'll never know. Maybe we will know. Maybe we'll find out. But I'm going to guess we'll never know the true answer. I'm going to go with it actually happened. It's a real thing. But there's enough there to say maybe it wasn't. What are your thoughts? Let me know down in those comments below. The infamous Montreal Screwjob. It's been covered to death. Talked about every which way, but let's talk about it some more down in those comments below. Peace, love, and pizza. I am your boy, Seth Grimes, and we'll catch you in the next video. That video there was a real slobber knocker. Head on down to the comments, put a little barbecue sauce on the like button. And while you're there, I would subscribe so you don't miss any other videos. And leave a comment. Everybody's got a fucking comment.